People sometimes say, well, if you're living in the West, how can you be pursued? How can you be persecuted? Well, I remember once I was living in Hong Kong, and I was asking this very question of a priest. And I said, I haven't experienced any trouble for my faith. It doesn't apply to me. This is what goes on with Christians in North Korea or China or Saudi Arabia. And he said, well, you come with me tonight, and we'll see. I pitched up about 11 o'clock at night, and he had this van, and he had a police band radio. And we listened in to the police, and they were trying to find the runaway girls. Apparently, at that time in Hong Kong, about 50 girls a night ran away from their parents. And his ministry, his task, was to try to get to them before the triads, before the gangs. Because if the gangs got them, found them, they would kidnap them and send them to Japan as sex slaves. So his job was to try to find these girls. Twice that night, we arrived and found the girls at the same time as the triads. A knife was pulled on us, and somebody shot at us. And as we were driving back, he said, did you experience a sense of pursuit tonight? Did you get into trouble a little bit for Christ's sake? And I think I saw what he meant. Sometimes the battle comes to you. Sometimes you have to take the battle to the forces of evil. Persecuted Christians are very good at pointing this out. Once I took 2 pastor friends to Beijing, to a house church there, and the service always starts the same way. The pastor goes around everybody with one question. He asks, what are your wounds for Christ this week? And everybody started sharing. And then he got to the 2 foreign visitors. I said, what are your wounds for Christ this week? And they said, we live in Britain. We don't have wounds. We're not persecuted like you are. And there was this uncomprehending silence in the church. And then somebody said, you don't have the devil in Britain? And the pastor said, look, persecution is just about being pursued. Somebody's after you. Somebody's after Christ. If you're standing up against evil, the forces of evil won't be indifferent about it. They'll come after you in some way. He says, find the evil in your neighborhood, stand out against it, and you'll get into trouble. And that's what persecution is. And one of these guys came back and went to his area, and he realized that in the region, in the place where he lived, they were dealing drugs out of a car. And he got people together, and every time they saw this car in the neighborhood, he would call his Christian friends, and they would surround the car and put their hands on it and pray. And the first time this happened, the window rolled down, and this chap pokes his head out and says, what's going on? And they said, we just want you to take this horrible trade away from our streets because you're corrupting our kids. The drug gang began to bite back, and they had bricks through their window. He began to find that as they won, the forces of opposition got stronger. All that had happened was he'd simply taken the challenge back from China and said, what is the evil in this neighborhood, and how can I come against it? And when he did, trouble came. And that's the pattern. Something, someone will come after you if you confront evil. But if you don't, why should they bother? You're not a threat. And so that's why persecuted Christians often say, count it an honor to be persecuted, because then you know you're alive. You know you're making a difference.